I'm Alex, 40M, and I never thought I'd be writing this. My life took an unexpected turn when I found myself trapped in a toxic marriage with my wife, Megan, 38F. We've been together for 15 years, married for 12, and have 2 young kids, Ethan, 8M, and Lily, 6F. I always believed in the sanctity of marriage, but somewhere along the way, things went terribly wrong. Megan and I met in college. She was vibrant, ambitious, and seemed to complement my more laid-back personality perfectly. We dated for 3 years before tying the knot, and initially, everything seemed great. We both had good jobs, bought a nice house in the suburbs, and started our family. But as the years went by, I noticed a gradual shift in our relationship dynamics. Megan became increasingly controlling and manipulative. She had a way of twisting situations to make me feel guilty or inadequate. If I wanted to spend time with friends, she'd guilt-trip me about neglecting the family. When I expressed interest in changing careers, she'd remind me of our financial obligations and how selfish I was being. Slowly but surely, I found myself walking on eggshells in my own home. Our communication broke down completely. Every conversation turned into an argument, with Megan always managing to come out on top. She'd use the kids as leverage, threatening to limit my time with them if I didn't comply with her wishes. I felt trapped, suffocated, and completely alone. That's when I met Rachel, 35F, at a work conference. She was smart, funny, and actually listened when I spoke. We hit it off immediately, and for the first time in years, I felt seen and valued. What started as innocent flirting quickly escalated into a full-blown affair. I know what you're thinking, I'm the bad guy here. Trust me, I've wrestled with that thought every single day. But the affair with Rachel wasn't just about physical attraction or excitement. It was an escape from the emotional prison my marriage had become. With Rachel, I could be myself without fear of judgment or manipulation. She became my confidant, my support system, and eventually, my lover. The affair continued for over a year. It was exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. I lived in constant fear of getting caught, but I couldn't bring myself to end it. Rachel made me feel alive again, reminding me of the person I used to be before my marriage slowly chipped away at my self-esteem. But as they say, all good things must come to an end. My worst fears came true when Megan discovered a text from Rachel on my phone. The fallout was catastrophic. Megan unleashed a torrent of anger, hurt, and accusations. She threatened to take the kids and leave, to ruin my reputation at work, to destroy everything I held dear. In a desperate attempt to salvage our marriage, I agreed to counseling. We tried multiple therapists, each promising to help us rebuild trust and communication. But as the sessions progressed, it became increasingly clear that our issues ran much deeper than just the affair. During one particularly intense session, I finally vocalized what I had been feeling for years. I had mentally checked out of my marriage long before the affair began. Megan wasn't my best friend anymore. She didn't value my thoughts or needs. Our relationship had devolved into a power struggle, with Megan always holding the upper hand. The counseling sessions brought to light many uncomfortable truths. I realized that I had allowed myself to become a passive participant in my own life, always deferring to Megan's wishes to avoid conflict. The affair, as wrong as it was, had been my subconscious way of reclaiming some control over my life. Despite the ongoing counseling, I couldn't bring myself to end things with Rachel. If anything, the contrast between my interactions with her and the tense atmosphere at home became even more stark. Rachel encouraged me to stand up for myself, to pursue my passions, and to prioritize my own happiness. With her, I felt like an equal partner, not a subordinate. As weeks turned into months, I found myself at a crossroads. The guilt of continuing the affair weighed heavily on me, but so did the prospect of returning to my loveless marriage. I knew I was being unfair to everyone involved, Megan, Rachel, and most importantly, my children. But I felt paralyzed, unable to make a decision that would inevitably hurt someone. Ethan and Lily were caught in the middle of this mess, and it broke my heart. They could sense the tension between Megan and me, even though we tried our best to shield them from our problems. I saw the confusion in their eyes when they noticed how distant I had become, or when they overheard yet another argument between their parents. I tried to compensate by being extra attentive when I was with them, but I knew it wasn't enough. The guilt of potentially breaking up their family ate away at me constantly. I wondered if staying in an unhappy marriage for their sake was the right thing to do, or if it would ultimately do more harm than good. My parents' marriage hadn't been perfect, but they had stuck it out for the kids. I grew up in a home filled with tension and unspoken resentment. Was I doomed to repeat that cycle with my own children? As I write this, I'm still unsure of what to do. The affair has opened my eyes to what a loving, supportive relationship could be like. But it has also forced me to confront the harsh realities of my choices. I know I've made a mess of things, and there's no easy way out. I'm not looking for absolution or pity. I know what I did was wrong, regardless of the circumstances. But I can't help wondering, is it possible to find happiness without destroying everything and everyone around me? Is there a way to salvage some semblance of a family for my kids without sacrificing my own well-being? I don't expect any easy answers. I just needed to get this off my chest, to share my story with someone who might understand. If you've been in a similar situation or have any advice, I'm all ears. Because right now, I feel like I'm drowning, and I don't know how to come up for air without hurting everyone I care about. Update 1. It's been 2 years since my last post, and a lot has changed. After months of agonizing over my decision, I finally gathered the courage to file for divorce from Megan. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but looking back, I know it was the right choice for everyone involved. The divorce process was messy and emotionally draining. Megan didn't take it well at first, alternating between rage and desperate attempts to convince me to stay. She used every manipulation tactic in her arsenal, guilt-tripping me about the kids, threatening to ruin my reputation, and even trying to turn my own family against me. There were moments when I almost gave in, when the familiar pull of her influence nearly overcame my resolve. But I stood my ground. I had spent too many years being a passive participant in my own life, and I was determined to take control this time. I enlisted the help of a good lawyer and focused on ensuring a fair settlement, especially regarding custody arrangements for Ethan and Lily. The kids. God, telling them was the worst part. Ethan, at 10, seemed to understand on some level. He had been quiet and withdrawn for months, sensing the tension between Megan and me. When we sat him down and explained that we were getting divorced, he just nodded solemnly and asked if he'd still get to see both of us. Lily, on the other hand, was confused and upset. At 8, she couldn't quite grasp why Daddy wouldn't be living with him anymore. Her tears nearly broke my resolve, but I knew that staying in an unhappy marriage would ultimately hurt them more in the long run. Throughout the divorce proceedings, I continued seeing Rachel. She was my rock during those turbulent months, offering support and encouragement when I felt like giving up. However, our relationship wasn't without its challenges. The stress of the divorce and the guilt over how our affair had started took its toll. We had to work hard to build trust and establish a solid foundation for our relationship beyond the initial excitement of the affair. As for Megan, she didn't make things easy. She spread rumors about me at work and among our mutual friends, painting me as the villain who abandoned his family for a younger woman. Some people believed her, and I lost a few friends in the process. But those who really knew me understood that the situation was far more complex than Megan's version of events. Despite the challenges, I don't regret my decision to end my marriage. The past 2 years have been a roller coaster of emotions, but I've finally found the happiness and peace that eluded me for so long. Rachel and I got married 6 months ago in a small, intimate ceremony. Our relationship isn't perfect, we still have our disagreements and challenges, but it's built on mutual respect, open communication, and genuine affection. She truly is my best friend and partner in every sense of the word. My relationship with my kids has evolved too. Initially, there was some distance, especially with Ethan. He was angry and hurt, and I don't blame him. But over time, as he saw how much happier and more engaged I was, he started to come around. We have our guy time every other weekend, playing video games or working on science projects together. Lily took less time to adjust. She adores Rachel and loves having 2 mommies to spoil her. Co-parenting with Megan remains a challenge. She still tries to manipulate situations to her advantage, but I've learned to set boundaries and stand my ground. We communicate primarily through a co-parenting app, which helps keep things civil and documented. It's not ideal, but it's workable, and the kids seem to be adjusting well to the new normal. Looking back, I realized that the affair was both a symptom of my unhappy marriage and a catalyst for much-needed change. Was it the right way to go about things? Probably not. The deception and lies caused a lot of unnecessary pain. If I could do it all over again, I would have found the courage to end my marriage before starting a new relationship. But I can't change the past, only learn from it and move forward. To those who might judge me harshly, I understand. Infidelity is a painful, destructive force. But I also want to say this: sometimes, what looks like a simple case of cheating on the surface is actually a complex web of emotional neglect, manipulation, and personal growth. It's easy to see things in black and white, but life is rarely that simple. I'm not proud of how I handled things, but I am proud of the person I've become. I'm a better father, a more attentive partner, and a happier human being. My kids are seeing what a healthy, loving relationship looks like, and I hope that will serve them well in their own future relationships. To anyone stuck in a toxic marriage, wondering if there's light at the end of the tunnel, there is. It's not an easy journey, and it will test you in ways you never imagined. But you deserve happiness and respect. Don't waste years of your life trying to fix something that's fundamentally broken. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away and start over. Update 2. It's hard to believe, but another 3 years have passed since my last update. Life has a way of flying by when you're not miserable, I guess. I'm now 45, and a lot has changed, some for the better, some. Well, let's just say life always has a few curveballs up its sleeve. First, the good news: my marriage to Rachel, 40F, is still going strong. We've settled into a comfortable rhythm, balancing our careers, our relationship, and our blended family. Rachel has become an amazing stepmom to Ethan, 13M, and Lily, 11F, always there to offer support but never trying to replace their mom. Watching her build her own unique relationships with my kids has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. Speaking of the kids, they've grown so much, both physically and emotionally. Ethan is now in his first year of high school, all gangly limbs and teenage attitude. He's passionate about computer programming and spends hours coding in his room. Sometimes I worry that he's becoming too introverted, but Rachel reminds me that it's just a phase and that he needs space to explore his interests. Lily, on the other hand, is a social butterfly. She's in middle school now and seems to have a new best friend every week. She's taken up dance classes and is constantly practicing routines in our living room. It's a joy to see her confidence growing, especially considering how shy she was during the divorce. Now, for the not so great news, my relationship with Megan, 43F, has taken some unexpected turns. About a year ago, she got remarried to a colleague from her work, Mark, 46M. At first, I was genuinely happy for her. Despite our past, I wanted her to find happiness and stability, especially for the sake of our kids. However, things quickly took a bizarre turn. Ethan came home one weekend and casually mentioned that Megan and Mark were having a lot of arguments. He overheard Megan accusing Mark of not caring about her needs and manipulating her into doing what he wanted. Sound familiar? It was like listening to a replay of our own marriage. I tried not to get involved, but it was hard to ignore the parallels. Megan seemed to be falling into the same patterns that had destroyed our marriage, only this time, she was casting herself as the victim. It was surreal and, I'll admit, a little vindicating to see her struggles from the outside. But here's where things get complicated. Megan has started a smear campaign against me. She's been telling anyone who will listen that I was a terrible husband and father, that I neglected her and the kids, and that my affair with Rachel was just the tip of the iceberg of my bad behavior. She's even tried to poison the kids against me, telling them stories about how I supposedly mistreated her during our marriage. It's frustrating and hurtful, especially because I've worked so hard to maintain a civil co-parenting relationship for the sake of our children. I pay my child support on time, never miss a scheduled visitation, and have even been flexible when Megan needed to switch days. But now, she's trying to rewrite history, casting herself as the long-suffering martyr and me as the villain. The kids, thankfully, seem to see through most of it. Ethan, in particular, has called his mom out on her behavior a few times. He remembers the tension and unhappiness of our marriage and knows that things weren't as black and white as Megan is trying to paint them. Lily is more susceptible to Megan's influence, but she's also fiercely loyal to Rachel, which seems to balance things out. I've had to resist the urge to fight fire with fire. It would be easy to tell the kids about all of Megan's faults, to expose her manipulative behavior and set the record straight. But I know that would only hurt them in the long run. Instead, Rachel and I have focused on being consistent, loving presences in their lives. We figure that actions speak louder than words, and eventually, the truth will come out. Still, it's been a challenging year. Dealing with Megan's renewed hostility has brought up a lot of old feelings and insecurities. There are days when I question everything, wondering if I really was as bad as she claims. But then I look at my life now, my happy marriage, my thriving kids, my own personal growth, and I know that I made the right choice. I've also had to set some firm boundaries. I've made it clear to Megan that I won't engage in her attempts to rehash our past or badmouth each other to the kids. All communication goes through our co-parenting app, and I only respond to messages directly related to the children. It's not ideal, but it's necessary for my own mental health and for maintaining some semblance of peace. As for Megan's new marriage, I try to stay out of it as much as possible. But I can't help feeling a twinge of sympathy for Mark. I remember all too well what it's like to be on the receiving end of Megan's manipulative tactics. Part of me wants to warn him, to tell him to get out while he can. But I know that's not my place, and he'll have to figure things out on his own, just like I did. Looking ahead, I'm cautiously optimistic. Rachel and I are talking about having a child of our own, which is both exciting and terrifying. Ethan and Lily seem on board with the idea of a new sibling, though I worry about how it might affect our family dynamics. And of course, there's the question of how Megan will react to this news. But for now, I'm focusing on the positive. My life isn't perfect, but it's so much better than I ever thought it could be 5 years ago. I'm in a loving, respectful relationship. My kids are thriving. I'm rediscovering parts of myself that I thought were long gone. And most importantly, I'm breaking the cycle of toxicity that threatened to define my life for so long. To anyone out there struggling with similar issues, hang in there. It gets better. It might get worse before it gets better, but trust me, the other side is worth fighting for. Update 3, another year has flown by, and it feels like the universe is determined to keep things interesting. There have been some significant developments in my life, both positive and challenging, that I feel compelled to share. First, the news that's been dominating my thoughts lately: Megan, 44F, and Mark, 47M, are getting divorced. It's been barely 2 years since their wedding, and already things have fallen apart. I can't say I'm entirely surprised, given what I'd heard about their relationship dynamics, but it's still a shock to the system. Ethan, 14M, was the one who broke the news to me. He came home from Megan's house one weekend, looking more withdrawn than usual. When I asked what was wrong, He just shrugged and said, "Mom and Mark are splitting up. She says he's just like you." Those words hit me like a ton of bricks. It was clear that Megan was falling back into her old patterns, casting herself as the victim and her partners as the villains. I tried to stay neutral, to be there for Ethan without bad-mouthing his mother. But it was hard not to feel a mix of emotions, vindication, sympathy, and frustration all rolled into one. Part of me wanted to reach out to Mark, to tell him I understood what he was going through. But I knew that would only complicate matters further. Lily, 12F, seems to be taking the news harder than Ethan. She's always been more sensitive to changes in the family dynamic, and this latest upheaval has left her feeling insecure and anxious. Rachel, 41F, has been amazing with her, spending extra time reassuring Lily that our family unit is stable and that we're here for her no matter what. Speaking of Rachel, our relationship continues to be a source of strength and happiness in my life. We did decide to try for a baby of our own, and I'm thrilled to share that Rachel is now 4 months pregnant. The kids had mixed reactions to the news. Ethan tried to play it cool but couldn't hide his excitement about being a big brother again, while Lily alternated between joy and worry about her place in the family. We've been working hard to reassure both of them that a new baby won't change how much we love them. However, Megan's reaction to the pregnancy news was less than ideal. When we told her, as we felt it was important she hear it from us rather than through the grapevine, she flew into a rage. She accused me of trying to replace our family, of loving Rachel's baby more than Ethan and Lily. It was irrational and hurtful, but I recognized it as a manifestation of her own pain and insecurities. The fallout from this has been challenging. Megan has ramped up her smear campaign against me, now adding Rachel to her list of targets. She's been telling anyone who will listen that we're trying to push her out of the kids' lives, that we're building a new family to replace the old one. It's frustrating and exhausting, especially when we've gone out of our way to include Megan in important decisions and keep her informed about the kids' lives. I've had to have some difficult conversations with Ethan and Lily about their mother's behavior. I've tried to explain, in age-appropriate ways, that sometimes adults struggle with their emotions and might say or do hurtful things. I've emphasized that it doesn't mean Megan doesn't love them, but that she's going through a tough time and might need some extra understanding. On a more positive note, my relationship with the kids continues to strengthen. Ethan and I have started working on a coding project together, building a simple video game. It's been a great way to bond and to show him that I'm interested in his passions. Lily has been helping Rachel decorate the nursery for the new baby, which seems to have eased some of her anxieties about the changes coming to our family. Work has been a welcome distraction from the family drama. I recently got a promotion, which has brought new challenges and responsibilities. It's been stressful at times, but also invigorating. Rachel has been incredibly supportive, picking up the slack at home when I've had to work late and always being there to listen when I need to vent. As for Megan, I'm trying to maintain a compassionate distance. It's clear that she's struggling, possibly repeating patterns from our marriage and her relationship with Mark. Part of me wants to help, to suggest therapy or offer support. But I know that's not my role anymore, and getting too involved would only muddy the waters further. Instead, I'm focusing on being the best father and husband I can be. I'm working on setting clearer boundaries with Megan, especially when it comes to her negative comments about Rachel or our expanding family. It's a delicate balance, trying to co-parent effectively while also protecting my current family from unnecessary drama. Looking ahead, I'm both excited and nervous about the changes coming our way. The new baby will be here in a few months, which will undoubtedly shake up our family dynamic once again. I worry about how Ethan and Lily will adjust, especially with the added stress of their mother's divorce. But I'm also hopeful. This child represents a new chapter in our lives, a symbol of the love and stability Rachel and I have built together. As I reflect on the past few years, I'm struck by how much has changed. The affair that seemed like the end of the world at the time turned out to be the catalyst for a much happier life. It wasn't an easy road, and I still regret the pain my actions caused. But I can't regret where it led me. To anyone out there facing similar challenges, I want to say this: it does get better. The road might be long and bumpy, filled with unexpected twists and turns. But if you stay true to yourself, prioritize your happiness and the well-being of your children, and surround yourself with love and support, you can weather any storm. As for me, I'm looking forward to this next chapter of my life. It won't be perfect, life never is, but I'm ready to face whatever comes my way, with Rachel by my side and my children in my heart.